The content you're about to enjoy comes from the archives of The Best You. We're devoted to the very best in personal development. With a magazine and resources dedicated to inspiring and changing people's lives, at The Best You, we work with the world's leading writers and trainers on the evolution of the self, and people whose journeys have been affected by their work and words. For more information, go to www.thebestyou.co.
So we're glad that we can have you back on, and you have a bunch of folks that are behind the stage just waiting to come on. And we had talked a little bit about Limitless yesterday. And so what I want to do today is just give you the full time. Yes, there's bios for everybody, but that would take up the time from you. So if you are okay with that, I'm just going to put everyone in. Is that okay?
That is fine. I think Michael was supposed to run the teaser and then possibly my point real quick before we officially start the panel.
Okay. So while we're waiting for that, and we don't have, I think he's saying we don't have that one for today. So do you have where you can just go ahead and give your comments?
Yeah, it was sent like an hour ago, but that's fine. That's fine. Really what it is this is the panel discussion following my Dallas presentation. Fortunately, Miss Crystal was my facilitator for that one. So it's wonderful to have her back again. So each time is a culmination upon the last one. So, but really what this panel discussion will be is a discussion with all the limitless forces of nature that I have at my disposal at this time, and them sharing their experiences, what went into actually them discovering their identity, finding their talents, and then channeling their purpose to be limitless forces of nature within their own industries and life. So thank you all for joining us today, and I look forward to a wonderful discussion.
Awesome. So would you like me to let everyone in?
Yes, please.
Hello, ladies. Hello. Trudy, you are on mute. And Miss Linda? Monica is all set. She says, I'm ready for this panel.
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing great. Welcome, ladies. And Lisette, is this all of who you have? Are we ready?
Wonderful.
Okay. All right. I will excuse myself, and you guys have a great panel.
All right. Thank you, Crystal.
Thank you. Thank you, ladies, for joining us. And thank you to all our audience for tuning into our discussion of Limitless Forces of Nature Revealed. Once again, this is a continuation of my Dallas presentation workshop on Limitless Force of Nature. We are pleased to have 3 limitless forces of nature with us today. Miss Linda Green, who is our District 50 Chief Judge with our Toastmasters. Give a wave, Miss Linda. And then I don't even know what her title is, but she is my mentor right now. And my sister from another mister, Distinguished Toastmaster Monica Rose.
Hi, everyone.
And she is also an accomplished mechanical engineer with L3. So thank you for joining us, Monica. And then Trudy Brock, who is also another sister from another mister. And we'll go into a little bit more detail later on how we met. It's an interesting way that we met, but we have been connected ever since then. So, Trudy, if you can raise your hand as well.
Hi, everyone.
Wonderful. Thank you. So we're going to go ahead and go into our discussion. Once again, there are 3 steps to assuming your role as a limitless force of nature. 1 is knowing your identity. 2 is discovering your talents. And 3 is channeling your purpose. steps. If you go in those steps, then it will be possible to make that transformation in your life, to assume the role as a limitless force of nature. You will be truly unstoppable, because we were all created in the image of who created us, meaning we are boundless, we are limitless, we are powerful. And that's what this discussion will be all about. So these three ladies will be sharing their accounts, how they made their transformation to assume their role as limitless forces of nature in life, as well as their respected industries. So with that, let me go ahead and call on Miss Linda. Miss Linda, can you tell us where you're from?
I was born in Dallas, Texas. Did you hear me?
Wonderful. Miss Linda, yes, I heard you. Great. You were born in Dallas, Texas. So, Miss Linda, how did you discover your identity? And did you have any challenges in realizing who you really were? And when we say identity, we're not talking about the conventional labels of the world, where we're talking about sex, gender, religious affiliation. We're talking about in-depth who you are at your very core.
To be honest, that's probably been a problem, in that I've probably always known who I was, and that got me in trouble from the beginning. I've always been an analytical personality type, and I pay attention to everything that's going on. I may choose not to say anything about it, but I do see it, and I will speak on whatever I want to speak about, when I want to speak about it, whether or not it's popular. So for knowing who I am, I've probably always been there.
Okay. Thank you for that. Let me ask the same question of Monica, because I'm going to go one step at a time with all of you, and then go on to the next step. So, Monica, where do you hail from originally?
I hail from Opelousas, Louisiana, down on the bottom of the boot. And if I talk a little longer, you might hear that Creole accent come through. But I work hard to make sure that all of my words are clearly understood and enunciated correctly. And to answer your question about my identity, where I come from, what are my innate characteristics, I was always a curious one. Nothing to me seemed a challenge. If I had an opportunity to look into something or do something, I was always the one that read more. My dad was a science teacher, so he had a lot of books. We had a library growing up. So looking at having that just opportunity to see books and just the inquisitive person in me, I opened those books. My mom was in nursing school, so I flipped through a lot of the pages. The images told a lot of the story where I didn't have to read all of the big words. But my oldest brother lived in that room and had a poster on the wall that had a lot of content on conversations. And as a young child, I remember that moment when I spoke up and actually pronounced the word. He was in shock because I broke it down in the syllables and I said it out audibly. And to him, that was a surprise. But throughout my life, I always look at everything with a positive outlook, because I feel like if you can read, you can do anything in life and anything in this world. So I've tackled some giants. Being an engineer, I've worked on my car. I've changed the windshield wiper motor. I've changed brakes on a vehicle. I've changed an oil sending unit in my vehicle. These are things that all cost a lot of money. So that feeds into my personality as an engineer, because I want to stay frugal. I can grasp the concept. I see in multi-dimensions because that's what I do. I have that ability and do that easily. So anything that comes my way, anything that might be a curious thing that says, might stump me, I'll work at it and find out the answers. So I'm the curious one and a lifelong learner. So that feeds into who I am. And I just happened on it.
Trudy, now to you. Where do you hail from? And then the same thing. Did you encounter any challenges in discovering your identity?
Well, for starters, I live in the Dallas, Texas area. I've been here for over 30 some years, but I originally come from West Africa, Ghana, in a little place called Accra. And I don't really think I discovered my identity because I come from a background where at a young age, it's instilled in you who you are. So I built on it as I grew. And obviously there are characteristics that those were telling me who I was. They didn't know I have those characteristics. So as I grew, I built on it and became who you see today. One of the things that had helped me identify who I am or discover who I am is having very strong people in my background. I guess you could say fortunate and unfortunate. I wasn't raised by my parents. So that means that I was raised by different people coming from different views. They have different point of views, but the ones that made an impact in my life was my grandparents. My grandfather was a chartered accountant, and he believed that no matter what you do, education is the root, is the base. So at a very young age, when others were playing outside, I was somewhere in the corner with a book. And in the environment I grew up in, it was one of those where you either get pushed or you push. So I've always taught to use my words to let people know what my views were. Never allow to be pushed around. Never let anyone tell you who you are. And definitely don't buy into what someone's opinion of you is. So I would say I've always knew who I was. But as I grew up, I built on the qualities that I have in me, which was I've always been a leader. And if I ever been in a position where I have to follow, I always make sure that I'm following the right leaders. And so that is how I became who I am and how I discovered my identity.
If you're interested in finding your true purpose, if you're interested in finding your legacy, if you're interested in growing, if you are sick and tired of reading books that don't help you, haven't helped you, or are not helping you, or attending courses and seminars that haven't really had an impact in your life, I invite you to read my book, The Question, Find Your True Purpose, out now. For more information, go to www.thequestion.co. If you're interested in working with me, contributing, speaking at any of our many events, partnering, or licensing The Best You, for more information, go to www.thebestyou.co.
Excellent. Excellent. Wonderful, Trudy.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Like I said, it's nice to know how all of us are shaped and what shapes us, because I'm a believer that nothing is by accident. Everything is for a purpose. It's just finding out what the purpose is, because I feel like who created us, he's the ultimate mastermind. I mean, whether it's positive or less than positive, it happens for a reason, and it impacts us and it shapes us and molds us into the force of nature that he intends for us to be. So that's what this whole transformation process is all about. So going into that a little bit more, because I went into my 3 steps and the identity, and as well as the talents and the purpose and the limitless force of nature. I went into that into my Dallas presentation. So I won't take up any of y'all's time sharing my side of it. You can listen to my Dallas presentation on my 3 factors. So going into the second step, talents. Each one of us has God-given talents. So let's go into what are your talents and how did you discover them? Switch the order a little bit and go with Monica.
I mentioned a little bit about my talents earlier in my response. I am a lifelong learner and very inquisitive. But the way they get developed is having those opportunities. I had an opportunity to sign up for band in the 6th grade. And through my love of music, by the time I got to high school, was introduced to a band director that had more bandwidth, more exposure. And as he encouraged us and pushed us, I was one of those that took on the challenge of working the extra mile, doing the extra work to learn more about how music could be so enjoyable and how to play those different scales and the major and minor courses and threads and reading music. So that was one aspect of my life. Because I was the first girl after 3 boys, I did a lot of masculine things. I shot marbles and played basketball. I didn't do the girly things. And that naturally trended me into some of those things, some of those jobs that might be more male dominated. So my talent there was to be creative, to be the leader and learner and leading teams. I do think that some of those things helped me be really successful in the talent of problem solving. And so that problem solving was developed by meeting more friends and people actually coming to me asking those questions. How would you do? Because I've had a lot of experience just by trying things out. So my talents, I think, are everywhere because I want to look and learn. And I really am at the point right now on focusing. So I think your presentation today is so timely for us that might be interested in a lot of areas, but want to hone in on something and naturally walk into your strengths. So I enjoy music. I love problem solving, and just developing those talents have helped me just by the experiences that I've had and the opportunities that put me in that environment to learn more about who I was in that particular skill or observation. Thank you.
Thank you, Monica. Thank you. Thank you. And Trudy, you're next. Same question.
What are my talents? That is a magical question. So mine is multidimensional. And what that means is I have talent in the areas where I create crafts. I have a business where I sell jewelry and clothing. And at some point, I started looking at the products that I'm buying to sell and looking at how it was made, and just decided, you know what, I'm going to do this. And the next thing I know, I'm actually creating the same things that I was actually purchasing from others so I can resell. So I discovered that I have talent in that area. But my main talent that I've always known and utilized very well is networking and being able to meet people and communicate. I have been in workspace where there are individuals that others will identify as, oh, this person doesn't speak to anybody. She doesn't even respond when you speak to them, but I'm able to speak to them. And I think it's because it's my talent of how I approach people, how I engage with them, and how I treat them, and as far as communicating and letting them know that, I'm in a safe space and they're allowed to be who they want to be. Part of my talent is also, I'm very analytical. I think through things very well. So I do researching and to develop, always trying to develop, come up with a result for any problem. Another part of my talent is conflict management. I'm very great at, trying to resolve any issues that may arise. So I think from craft to analytical to communication to leading, one of the things that I also have done and continue to do is mentor others. So my talent is just well-versed. It's all over. And depending on what area it is, it determines what my talent is. But I think my talent is well-versed all over.
Thank you. Thank you, Trudy. You're very multifaceted. They say necessity is the mother of invention, and you've definitely done that. Yes. Miss Linda, last but certainly not least, your talents, ma'am.
You're muted.
You're on mute, Miss Linda.
One of the things I think we ladies on this panel have in common is that we are all lifelong learners. I am an avid reader as well. I think I won my first reading contest when I was in 3rd grade, and it was not because I was competing. It was because I was enjoying myself. I loved every minute of it. And I, too, always had my nose stuck in a book. And for that reason, I love knowledge. Oddly enough, never been a school teacher or anything. But one of the things about me is that I listen very well, and I know when it's time and how to encourage another person. A lot of times we struggle in our personal relationships because sometimes we just need a boost. And a lot of times I'm that person to give that boost. In addition to that, I'm more like a unifier in that my house tends to be the hub for family events and those types of things. And I'm creative, very creative. Always done something with my hands. It was knit. It was crochet, it's paint, whatever, any type of craft, that's me. And in that creativity, I think that's why I wound up in the profession that I'm in. And I've been a software developer for, I'll say 100 years, but at least 30 something years I design software. And that is a way you can get one thing done multiple different ways. So because I was not hemmed in to having to do something one way, I was able to get the job done and get it done my way. And I think that's what lended itself to me. I'm also a very social person when it comes to entertaining. I enjoy having people in my home and cooking. And everybody says I'm a pretty good cook too. And I enjoy it immensely. It is something that I can do for hours and hours and not be the least bit moved by it. It's, again, that's that creativity coming out, because in a recipe, and when you cook, you can do it multiple different ways. You can change things up or whatever and not ruin anything. That just gives you the freedom to make any changes that you may want, and they work. And again, that's just me. I'm the creator. That's my answer.
Yes, cooking is a good way to exert your creativity. I'm looking forward to that restaurant, Miss Linda. Yes. So going into talents and closing in on the talents step, one of the ways that I think all of our guests and myself are connected is all of us have had that exposure and the benefit of the Toastmasters International program. And that is the premier way to have the support that you require in order to develop and grow. And it is the best way of investing in yourself. And I found it really interesting that I had this natural ability, but then where I didn't see the growth in myself, there was a whole team, a whole organization in 146 countries for almost 100 years that believes in, while they're investing in themselves through servant leadership, they're helping others develop and grow. And so if you haven't checked into Toastmasters, please use this opportunity through the Limitless Force of Nature, Limitless Forces of Nature Revealed, to tap into that program. It's truly invaluable. It goes beyond communications. It even delves into leadership. So if you are trying to be the best you can be professionally, personally, work, home, life, Toastmasters is the best way, best investment to go. All right. Now going into our third and final step, purpose. What is your purpose? I remember asking my mother, and I went into my Dallas talk. I remember asking my mother when I was younger. I said, Mom, why didn't God give us a roadmap? And my mom had this perplexing look on her face. And she said, it would defeat the purpose. Then I didn't know what she meant. But as I've gone through the trials and tribulations, the triumphs and trials of life, I know exactly what she meant by that. Because if I had a roadmap that told me every single thing that was going to happen, what direction I needed to turn and everything else, what I've actually learned and achieved might have been impaired by having access to that roadmap in advance. So that being said, let's talk to our panelists and find out how they discovered their purpose and what they believe it to be, and whether they feel like sharing it with everybody else or helping other people discover their purpose. So we'll follow our order, or actually change our order a little bit, and start with Trudy this time. So Trudy, do I need to repeat any of those questions?
No, Lisette. Thank you so much for opening up this venue so that we all have an opportunity to share. My purpose. So let's back up a little bit. So as a young woman, I thought my purpose was get married, have children, and life is grand. Correct. And I started my journey, which I did get married, did have children. And so I did life a little bit in a different order, and then I went to college, and then I started learning. I've always been a reader because, again, with my background, especially with my grandfather, he was a reader and he encouraged me to read at all time. But I have an uncle. He's still living, actually. He had an arrangement with me, and the arrangement was he would give me a book a week. I would read it, and then I would summarize the book for him, and then I'll get money. This is how I started my journey of becoming an avid reader. So fast forward to my purpose. As I started reading more and writing more, I noticed that, other kids my age would ask me questions about the books I'm reading. And I will always be willing to teach them and discuss the book and and then the ones that couldn't read, I was trying to teach them how to read. And so this went on to the point where as an adult, I became a teacher at Lift downtown, which is a literacy program for Texas. And I served there for a few years, teaching people how to read. And I participated in my church as a city minister to counsel and mentor others. And then I became a member of a court-appointed advocate for abuse and neglect children. So my purpose just kept on building up. And the underlying truth is my purpose, I've always been to be in a position where I can inspire, I can empower, I can encourage, I can mentor, and I can coach, and I can teach others. Because where I am today, I didn't get here, it wasn't an easy road. There was always a hurdle. But because I have that fire in me, that for me, limitless is a word that will probably engrave on my forehead. I don't believe that I have a boundary. I do believe that, we all have goals and we have purposes in life and we work towards it. But for me, there's always something I want to accomplish. So I've gone from, trying to teach, and I'm still teaching. I'm not teaching at Lyft, but I'm teaching in different areas. I'm also still coaching, and I'm still empowering and encouraging and building others, because there are people there that they have that thing in them, but they may come from a background where they've been told that they are nothing. So that thing is hidden there, and they are afraid to bring it out, because what they've been told for years have made them believe it. They believe that, and because of that, they've buried that thing that's inside them. So when I meet individuals as such, what I want to do is I want to encourage you so that you know that, hey, I can do it if this person can do it. Because the truth of the matter is most of the people out there that have done great things that we read about, we hear about, we watch on TV, they are no different than others. They are no different than us. They just either have someone or they have that thing that let them know that, hey, I have no boundaries. I can do this. But more importantly, to understand that failure should never be a hurdle that holds you back from trying. You must always try. So for me, my children, I tell them failure is one of the things. They should look forward to failure. Because if you're looking forward to failure, there's no fear. And if you don't have that fear, then you don't have any limit. And if you don't have any limit, there is no boundary. And if there's no boundary, you can't achieve anything. So that has been my purpose. Lisette mentioned how we met. Oh, some about 10 plus years ago. We were both at a moment in our lives where we could use a little bit of, a friend. And she just looked my way. I was smiling and she was smiling, and we just engaged and started talking. And she told me where she was in her life at that time. I happened to be at the same place. Our backgrounds were, we were both married. We had kids. We both college educated. And we are at the time in our lives that we could use a friend. And we clicked with one another. I encourage her in many ways, and she encouraged me in many ways. And over 10 plus years, here we are. So to sum it all up, I would say my purpose in life is to be an anchor for anyone who need a helping hand, to be a friend to the friendless, to be a voice to the voiceless. I'm known to have a big mouth. I would say what's on my mind, and I would say it in a polite and respectful manner, but my point will be heard. And I feel like, especially in the current space we are in, the world is in a lot of pain. In any comfort, any empowerment, any encouragement we can give to one another, it is a must. Because at this point, some people just need someone to say hello. Some people just need someone to say, how are you? We use those few words and basic and nonchalant, like, how are you? We're not really expecting anybody to say anything. But the truth of the matter is, how are you means a lot to many people, because somebody somewhere, especially now that we are in COVID and everybody's at home, they don't have nobody calling. They don't have anybody saying anything. So they're lonely. So for me, in my daily life, I make it a point to let somebody know I see you, I hear you, and I'm here if you need me. So to sum it up, my purpose in life is to encourage, empower, and comfort, and be a voice and a friend to those who need it.
If you're interested in watching the video content of this interview and many others, or interested in learning from world leaders and teachers, go to www.thebestyou.online.
Thank you. Thank you, Trudy. Excellent response. Excellent response. Same question for you, Miss Linda. Your purpose. What do you feel your purpose is?
I believe my purpose right now is the role of an encourager. I have not said, but I am a wife and a mother of 4. And I have spent years encouraging my children, hopefully, to be the best that they could be. And a lot of my energy, even though I worked professionally, my heart was always at home, wanting the best for them. Work got what work got, but home got my best. And that's just the way I felt about it. And that comes from the desire to have a very strong marriage and family. And because I didn't. My parents were young, and their marriage ended in a divorce when I was about 18 years old, and that was by far one of the worst things that has ever happened to me in my life, to watch the dissolution of that marriage. I knew those two people loved each other, but for whatever reason, they just didn't know how to make it work. And I kept watching, and it brought out something in me, a curiosity as to why this has to go this way. And when I looked around the extended family, again, a lot of broken relationships, a lot of divorces, and I still believed that family could work. And I wanted my opportunity at it. So I went for it. I took my chance. In my opinion, I married well, and I built, with my husband, we built a family. And I want that for other people, because it does not have to be as bad. I just don't I don't believe it has to be as bad as it's looking right now. And so as part of that, we serve in a ministry, and it's called Marriage Mentors. And I love every minute of it. And it is a group out of our church that you, as an experienced couple, walk alongside a new couple, or either a couple that's in crisis for some reason. And you encourage them along the way and say, hey, doesn't have to be that bad. Let's look at this. Let's look at this from another angle. Why don't you try this? And it's a commitment for a year. And the thing about that relationship is that you think, as being the experienced couple, you're just going to impart a lot of information and just they're going to go off and do super. But in those type of relationships, you get out of those relationships as much as you give, because you learn from the couple that you're mentoring. You learn from them as much as they learn from you. And I believe for right now, serving in that ministry is my purpose for right now.
Thank you, Ms. Linda. And Monica, last but certainly not least, your purpose. Where are you doing that now? And then how do you help others?
All right. Thank you. Thank you. I want to start off by saying, wow, Trudy, we are living in the same house. Oh my,
yes,
I had that same belief of marrying, and I had the education, and now my next task was to marry and to have that house with the white picket fence, and life is going to be happily ever after. But then the blip happened. But that's okay, because I think as Lisette mentioned, the things that we have or encounter in life are the things that help to mold us and grow us, to take that shape and go through the fire and come out the polished gem that we all have done. And I think through my life experiences, my purpose is to help motivate and inspire so many that come my way, because when I do that, then I receive that same motivation and inspiration. And I truly think that it all boils down to encouraging others to have a voice and to be able to use that voice. We hear, if you see something, say something. But actually, if you feel something, you should still say something, because you never know what's being held inside the person that could be something that's holding them back from being the very best that they can be. And I'll share my experience from how I grew up as well. My dad was a disciplinarian. He was the educator, and he was the ruler. It was his way, or, the highway. You can take it or leave it. And I felt like I never had a voice. I never had the chance to say or give my opinion. So as I raised my family, I allowed my children to have their voice as well. And I can remember one summer, my son went to visit his grandparents in South Louisiana. And he said to him, well, why don't you mind your business? And they told me my son said that to my dad. And I said, oh, if he's still talking, he is alive and could manage through that. Because if I would have said that as a kid, then I probably may not be here on this panel discussion today. But I raised him in a way to say what he felt, and let's engage in a conversation. And there's so many people that I've met along the way that just want to know and be able to have someone to talk to and to just say, am I in the right place? Or what have you done when you met this same challenge? And that's where I learn and grow, because I share who I am, and that inspires them to take that extra step and to do more. We don't all have all the answers in life on how to manage through the different things. But I also want to share as well, when I met Lisette and I had something in common. We had a child that had special challenges, and her words to me, I'm so glad she said those to me, because that helped me feel better about my situation. But I never took my situation as an obstacle, because I persevered and pressed through. But she said, Monica, I look at you in Toastmasters, and you're still here, you're still growing, and you're still learning, and you're not at home sitting and saying, oh, woe is me. And because you're doing it, I can do it. So if someone says to you, I'm doing it because I see you do it, that's the best inspiration that will encourage people. So my purpose is to help be the person, the conduit that encourages someone to use that voice and speak. And wow, I can say the transformation that I've made in Toastmasters has allowed me to do that. So my further purpose is to help others be all they can be, to be the best communicator and leader that they want to be, and use their voice. And we learn that in Toastmasters. That's one way that I do that. But there's so many facets in life that I've had an opportunity to share some of those same thoughts, whether it's Toastmasters or other volunteering in the community, that brings me a lot of joy. This is why I get up every day and just have that experience, because it definitely, no matter how old or young you are, you still have an opportunity to grow. So thank you. Thank you for allowing me to have some reflection there.
No problem, Monica. It's always a pleasure. Monica was, and she still is, she's my mentor, my sister from another mister, and she has been a driving force for my achievement. She surpassed anything that I ever thought possible. And while I'd still like to follow on her coattails, God has put me on another path. But we're still engaged. We're still connected. And with that purpose, my purpose, which I already, like I said, I shared that in my Dallas talk, but my purpose is to leave this world better than the way I found it. And if that means through Toastmasters, helping others improve themselves, recognizing their abilities and supporting them to be the best that they can be, so be it. Sometimes they might be, kicking and screaming a little bit, but when they see that development, when they see that growth, when they reach that goal, it is a win-win situation. And the world would be such a better place if people would love, not hate. They would, instead of hate, appreciate. And instead of ridicule, praise. I mean, it is really that simple. And if there is something that you just don't see in yourself, align yourself with people who will help you grow and develop. We are products of our own environment. Now, that doesn't mean we can't change or improve our environment. So that's why growth is so important. That's why aligning yourself, having mentors, that's why the best you is so important. Is because there's so many resources out there, whether it's people, organizations, opportunities. There are a plethora of things that can help you grow and develop. So utilize those. Utilize this presentation. Because the limitless force of nature is within each and every one of us. And you've heard the accounts of all our panelists today. So I thank you all for joining us. There is a quote, and it was on my website, and I had included it in my presentation. And the quote that I have for the limitless force of nature is, people do not dictate who you are. They can't dictate who you are. But there is, let me get my exact quote, because I came up with it, was so awesome. And I want to make sure I word it correctly, because it was in my PowerPoint presentation. And it's being on the spot now. So when you go to LisetteCumberland.com, on my website, people's perception of you does not define who you are, but rather validates the need for your talents and the importance of your purpose as determined by who created you. Don't be afraid to be the limitless force of nature you were intended to be.
For more information, go to www.thebestyou.co.